Welcome back, everybody. We're waiting for game 5, and Stefan, it's been everything we could have expected.
Yeah, we've seen some terrific plays, some great word knowledge displayed, but these have been interesting, strategic, very different Scrabble games, and that's what we love to see because it showcases not just the ability of these players, but also the diversity of the game itself and the way the board can shape itself and change and offer different kinds of opportunities for comebacks, for tight games, for important decisions.
Yeah, almost like a canvas, like an artist's canvas. I feel like these two players do play with an artistry that you don't see so often among the upper echelons of the game. So, always a lot of fun to watch them compete. So, Ahi to start for Jackson, drawing into the bingo of nascent. After the play of Prof, that does
Does that block it
get
completely?
in the way quite effectively, and it does actually leave no place for the valid
Wow.
7-letter word on
Wow.
Jackson's rack. He will still have some very nice plays. I would be looking at trying to slot the C in this lucrative spot and play something down here. Stefan, I'm sure he'll find it.
He will find something there for sure. And if you're Josh at this point, you're just thinking, what is up with this rash of consonants throughout this match?
Yeah.
Again, 6 consonants on his rack.
He's considering playing act in this spot, nice and tight. It would keep 2 N's.
Why
So he
not put
could
EN on top?
he could play an act for a couple more points and shedding one of the 2 N's. Maybe he's loath to make this E out in space on a board that is otherwise extremely constricted, but I'm guessing right now he is weighing act
Yep.
versus enact in his mind. So he goes with the more defensive option. And Josh responding with hind. And look at that, another N, as if karmic
Mm-hmm.
retribution finds its way onto Jackson's rack. Ooh, interesting. 9 is the play, keeping a much better leave. Probably Jackson thinking, I have a good chance of hitting an Ahi's play if I absolutely max out on the value of my leave going into next turn. If I'm Josh, I feel like my leave is pretty good and I've got an S. I guess you might be a little concerned after Jackson's previous play of
Yep.
just 9. This really looks like his other 4 tiles are probably pretty good, but Josh is going to go
Mm.
ahead and play harm. You know what? Maybe the nice thing about harm is that if Jackson plays 9 on his previous play, you know almost to a certainty he didn't have any high scoring consonants. So maybe opening this spot is less dangerous than usual. You can just know he wasn't keeping a W. He would have played wine. He wasn't keeping a whatever F, or he would have played fine, etc., etc. So you can open this spot, set up your S in a way that isn't likely to backfire. I just assumed that Jackson would have a playable bingo starting with S. I didn't actually see it, but in fact, there is none.
There is
So
none.
Jackson's probably grappling with that right now. You mentioned it already, the time, the clock having Jackson said it himself, a little more of an impact than he expected on his game. He's going to have to trust his instinct at some point, and it looks like he is considering not bingoing. He definitely is going to see bingos like oranges and things like that here, maybe agonize and
Mm-hmm.
hota, but he's going to not bingo to deal with the big spot. I actually feel like that is pretty reasonable because the downside risk of letting this spot stay open is quite big. I really like this play. I think that was a really advanced choice.
That's fascinating. It's not one that I think a slightly lower rated player would make.
Josh, meanwhile, is just like He's trying his best. He played vids, leaving
Huh.
3 consonants, which I think that was the best way for him to score any number of points at
Wow.
all on that turn. And he
Wow.
drew a boatload of R's. Just a brutal
Brutal.
situation to start the game for him. But the silver lining, Jackson does not have a playable bingo yet, and the score is currently tied. I know it feels grim if you're Josh, but this game is still very much in reach.
Playing your S in that situation, Will, is that something that you would have hesitated to do?
It's another really good question. I think the number one thing that I would take into account in Josh's shoes is how has Jackson been playing to start the game. So what was his first move? Ahi. What was his next move? Act. What was his next move? Nine. All plays that only used 3 tiles off
Mm-hmm.
of Jackson's rack. That really is kind of a sign to me, if I'm Josh, that Jackson has some stuff that he likes, or else he would be playing more of his tiles. And when you have tiles that you like, when you make those 1, 2, 3 tile plays, it starts to increase the likelihood that your opponent has an S or a blank on their rack. So I really do think that knowing Jackson as he does, Josh playing vids was at least as much about blocking the easy S hook for Jackson as it was about grabbing as many points as he could on his subsequent turn. I think for all the reasons I just described, it makes a lot of sense to me. Very, very savvy choice on Josh's part.
And then Jackson's next play is OE. And if you're sitting in Josh's chair, you're thinking, oh God, yeah, he's got to be close. And I'm shocked that the bingo hasn't come down yet. And then Josh plays BRR. And we are seeing something that we do not normally see in a Scrabble game between players, 2 of the top 5 players in North America, which is, yes, the school Scrabble staircase. There it
Yeah,
is.
pretty
There's not been a word
striking.
longer than 4 letters played in this game, and we
Yeah,
are already 5 turns in.
snaking up that staircase. It's kind of funny too, just thinking about when will there be an opportunity, depending on like if there was a
Yeah.
play right here, right now. I'm not sure what that's going to be, but there it is. So exactly this type of play of white for 19 points makes a lot of sense. It scores well. It continues to sort of draw for an S
Mm-hmm.
play. Any kind of bingo starting with an S is still going to play alongside here. So that's definitely Jackson's hope.
We're going to see a 5-letter word play because Josh held back his third R so that he
Yeah.
could turn burr into burr.
And yeah, we haven't yet mentioned until you just brought it up, Stefan, holding back the R on the previous play of Burr. That's really clever. I mean, from Josh's perspective, using another consonant would have been valuable to him to
Yes.
try to get his hands on some vowels, but instead he went with the sort of preparing himself for next turn a little bit better, setting up that R hook. And now he does get a little bit of a better play there. And look at Jackson's styles. Jackson had
Whoa.
OES blank and drew IIO. All of these draws that are happening to Jackson are exactly what Josh needs to maintain, to stay even in this game despite Jackson having that blank.
Jackson exchanges.
Yeah, I was looking at his 2 tile vowel dumps and they were all kind of crazy. Like
Yeah.
oi here is just insane. OB here is something you would never want to do. A bunch of hooks, an A and a T for obia and obit. So I think exchanging makes a lot of sense. Um, and Josh has another pretty difficult decision on his hands. I could see him making a play like a Jew here, in fact. And the reason that he would be doing something like this in response to the way
Yes.
Jackson's been playing, this is incredibly defensive against the type of bingos like a bingo starting with S. This play would take them both out in one go. And there it looks like he set them up. This is a really, really clever play on his part. He is playing his opponent and watching his opponent's previous plays and using those to inform this choice.
He is playing the situation, and so often lower rated players, players of lesser ability, don't recognize the need to do that.
He forced
Eliminated.
Jackson into this difficult find.
Yeah.
And of course, Jackson found it, but that
Yep.
doesn't make the play of adieu any less on point. Adieu, I should say. So this play is the only playable bingo. Kolshi for Jackson. I believe this word might have been caught up in some kind of the expurgations because I think it's the definition for it is a person from rural Ireland, but it's also like negative in that sense. There is an R hook to this word in addition to the S. So Josh has both an R and an S on his rack. And I'm just wondering, is he going to try to keep that S and play something like croon, or I don't even know what he would play, or is he going to use the S to get a bunch more points going across with something like Congos in that area? So Josh playing cooing.
Now, this has to throw some doubt in Jackson's mind that he's got to be, I would think, a little bit confident that Josh didn't have the back hooks for Kolshi. He forewent playing croon or playing Congos in that space. So maybe Jackson now false sense of security that that's not a threat right this minute, though it obviously could be after Josh playing off 5 tiles.
Just looking at these remaining tiles from Jackson's POV, you see 1 R and 2 S's. And I just feel like that's not very much, but it's enough that I would definitely be hell bent on trying to block this spot in Jackson's shoes. So the question is how. It looked like he was considering Oxy on the previous move, which would do a lot to obstruct it. In fact, we know that would actually be very bad for Josh. Josh has so many things that are going to play in this spot with either the R or the S, but it looks like, I wonder what the thinking is behind Axe. There has to be something that I'm not seeing yet.
I mean, could he, if he was really concerned, the simplest way would have been to draw. He had the Y, right?
He did, yeah.
Could he have just played OY?
I was thinking he could just play FIE right here, which is kind of nice because you would force.
Kills both.
Yeah, well, he could have. So Jackson, we know, had a T on that move, so he would be setting up his T and making it much more difficult. But either way, looks like
now.
Ovaries is going to be the play. I wonder. So this word normally, well, not normally, it just does take a C front hook, but both C's are on the board. And plus, there would be no space to play it anyway. But a big swing here. Josh scoring very well. He goes up by 35 points after that. And Jackson's shaking his head, maybe thinking, God, maybe I should have tried a little harder to get in the way of that spot. So, yeah, Jackson in a little bit of a bind. The same thing that he was just happy about, which is the extreme tightness of this entire part of the board. It's very difficult to access any of this space. He was loving that when he was in the lead, but now that Josh has used up the one good scoring opportunity left on the board prior, he's going to feel a little bit of a pinch here.
You may as well draw those lines across the bottom of the board too, Will, because there's not a lot of opportunity here. And to Jackson's dismay, this doesn't do much, though it does bring the game into a virtual tie. And now it becomes a battle of attrition in some ways. Who's going to be able to score something on this board?
Oh, this is cool. This is a cool. Nice idea.
Waiting for this. Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, this is a great idea. This is an excellent idea.
There's your 20 points, Will.
20 points. That looks like the highest scoring play that exists on that board, which says a lot about how closed it was. But the beauty of it is not only are you scoring the most you can get, you're also putting a V in space that gives no options back to Jackson. So Jackson's going to play fob here.
And I want to point out here, Will, after fob, where are you going to play the Q that is hanging
Oh,
out? Both eyes are on the players' racks.
good
There's
call.
one U left. Not that it's going to help you either.
It's a really, really good call. This is definitely shaping up to be a board where the Q is going to be absolutely brutal. Look at the clocks, too. There's definitely some tricky decisions coming up in the game for both players. And I'm sure they're feeling that pinch of the extra 5 minutes right now. So, Josh, I didn't even see what Josh did. Oh, he played
Jackson.
AI in the lower
Yeah.
corner, and then Jackson played U, using up some of his, looks like one of two Ys on that turn.
And Jackson picked the last S. He has the I.
Oh, that's a huge pick, but Josh picked a U. Normally, you'd be happy to pick a U to hedge against drawing the Q, but where is he even going to play a QU play on this
No.
board?
And on
Oh,
the other hand, if that QIS comes down with fobs, you're sitting on the last. Oh no, Josh played off his I. Wow.
No, he has another eye,
Oh,
and
he had the other eye. It
he's
was
about to
obscured on
play
my
it.
screen. I'm sorry, obscured in
I
my view.
wonder, but I wonder
Wow.
if he should be playing AE there for that very
Yes.
reason that you're describing, Stefan.
Yeah,
That
with
could be
two
really
E's.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least one. Oh, and there is
And
that
there it
Q.
is.
That's going to be really difficult for Josh to shed here. I'm so curious to see how this game transpires. I got to update it because Josh is actually up by 20 here. Again, that
Wow.
feels like so little.
Wow.
It's actually a lot on this board, but Jackson holding IS. He knows if he draws the Q, that's the last S. There's basically no way this spot can ever be obstructed. Hey,
With
Stefan, what about just Josh playing just his D?
D.
That's kind of cool. You have the
Yeah.
last O for odor. That could be a
Yeah.
nice way to create some space. That's a spot we might see be used. Jackson just playing his E off. If you missed it, the play right
Yep.
here, that was Jackson's previous play. 14 points for just an E. Oh my God, this game is getting insane, and there's just no time on the clocks for the players here.
Players.
There it is.
Oh,
There it is. Door. That is brilliant. So he's seen it. This is classic Josh Sokol here. This. Oh, not quite.
Oh.
So close. I
So
thought for a
close.
second maybe that was unwittingly going to give that back, but I shouldn't have
There's no
imagined
way
that Jackson would
have.
allow
Yeah,
that. Yeah, Jackson would not allow that,
that was
except
not
with time
happening.
pressure, maybe. But what can Josh do now
Is
and
there a
get
way
this
for him
Q
to
out?
score? Well, what about just accepting that I'm going to get stuck with it? Is there any way for him to play down to DOR ending in O
And to score a ton.
and to score a ton?
So that play emptied the bag. So there's no hope coming. Yeah, I just realized there were 3 tiles in the bag on Jackson's previous move. So that was a bag emptying play from Jackson. Oh, you can see the clocks are not running. So clearly they're verifying the scores. But yeah, the score right now going into this end game for Josh, he's already down by 5. He has some good tiles on his rack, but so does Jackson, and it doesn't look like Josh will be able to get that Q off. So he's basically he's playing his P off for 14 tiles, just probably hoping against hope that maybe Jackson inadvertently gives him something that he doesn't expect. Jackson has Ylum, however, Ylum set up on his rack. Can't play that because it would give back Quoll or something of the like through this L. So maybe Jackson is going to try, knowing that this spot is almost completely inaccessible. I guess Leonine is still possible to address it, but maybe Jackson's going to save this. Yeah, it's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to use his other 3 tiles and then follow up with that 21-point play, making
unblockable. Yeah.
So Josh down low on the clock. make sure I'm trying to stay. It was only a 3-point play for Jackson. Josh is going to play low and odor. I think this is, you can see his angst here, the agony on both players' faces.
I mean, this is the point where what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Josh has recognized that there's no way. I mean, his only hope was to try to score enough.
Yeah, now with the L.
Getting stuck with the Q.
With the L off of the rack for Josh, Jackson can safely play Wylam and not worry about giving up a big Q spot. He is going to give up QUEY, but that won't be enough to win this game. And okay, so there we go. It looks like Jackson's about to commit this play. He hasn't done it yet. He might be thinking about, do I really want to give him a place to play this Q? And he does. Josh needs to play this fast. The time is coming into play here. There it is. QUEY. He plays it with 1 second on his clock. What's going on? All right, hold on. We have to see what happens. We can assume that Jackson is going to win on the strength of getting the unplayed K from Josh. Yes, so before that K, Josh actually ends up ahead on the scoreboard, but with the K, Jackson winds up ahead. The score I'm reading is 359 to 355.
Wow. Now, normally you would ask for a recount here, but I think they know that they counted correctly. And
okay, there we go.
And then at some point they were recounting mid-game.
Holy crap. That was bonkers. Sorry. Yeah. Hopefully we did justice to it. It was enough, Stefan, for the two of us. I'm trying to make sense of it all as it's happening.
We just don't see games like this at this level.
It's true.
You just do not see them, right? I mean, we saw one unusual bingo be played in this game, but we saw a congested board in a staircase pattern with neither player able to really carve out any sort of distinctive advantage at any time in the game. The key play in the game you thought was going to be Jackson not blocking the hook for Kolshi.
Yeah.
And in the end, the key play of the game was Josh reaching into the bag and pulling out the Q.